Afternoon, David.
Afternoon, David. I'm Scottish, but you can't see it says not British.
Uh-huh.
British, not British.
Been an interesting week so far.
Oh yes, 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 yes. There are things that happened today. There's unfortunate things that happened today, but also there are other things that are rather interesting, and things that we'll look at and we go, my goodness me, that could turn up. This could be quite explosive.
Aye.
So more to come.
There's a lot going on in Scotland. There's a lot going on in Scotland this week. Stuff. A lot of it was affected by what went on outside Scotland this week. But there's a lot going on in Scotland this week as well. So we're covering a few Scotland specific stories as usual, David. The first five will be Scotland specific.
Go on.
And then we'll be moving on to a couple of stories out of the Treasury and then a bit further afield because there's a lot going on.
Yeah.
Right, let's start off today then with the spending review. Treasury says extra 2.9 billion a year on the Scottish Block Grant, thanks to the programme for government laid out by Rachel Reeves. Now, I'm assuming you watched the spending review or you've had a look over it since yesterday.
So the only inkling of the spending review I had was with your programme this morning. I was busy writing a medical post, so I haven't had a chance to pick up on that. But I do know a spending review took place, and it was a load of bollocks.
It was a lot of bollocks. But let's talk about what's specific to Scotland. Scotland to get an extra 2.9 billion from spending review, says Treasury. And Holyrood budget will rise by 2.9 billion a year on average as a result of the Chancellor Rachel Reeves spending review, according to Treasury officials. Reeves said block grant funding from Westminster would rise to 52 billion by 2029, the largest settlement in real terms since devolution was introduced. Setting out the UK's spending review, there was specifics in there for Scotland. Specific projects in there for Scotland. There was a supercomputer for Edinburgh.
Someone is at the front door. Someone is at the front door.
Sorry, guys.
So we. Highly disappointing. I'll carry on. There was 250 million for redevelopment per year at Fars Lane and Coalport. And there was talk of the Acorn carbon capture programme, but no number has been allocated to that said project.
But this is the thing, even though they did give the details of the carbon capture project, has nobody learned anything yet? Has nobody bothered to look up carbon capture and what the setbacks are?
No, it's not just that, David. There has been no spending allocated to it. It was mentioned, but no spending has actually been allocated.
I appreciate that. But in the first place, none of our Scottish SNP ministers actually had a look at what the setbacks of carbon capture actually are. It's not just something to go for willy-nilly. It's something to look at carefully. Because as
far as the Scottish Government take up with the Westminster Government.
As far as I'm concerned, all it does is it gives the big oil and gas sucking companies the opportunity to carry on as normal.
Well, anyway.
Look, we've got it might be causing climate change, but we've got something here that takes all that carbon out.
On carbon capture, we all know what they were. Okay, but the other thing there was, of course, the 2.9 billion is adjustments to the Barnett formula. Apparently, Finance Secretary Shona Robson looked at the numbers and went, "We're being short-changed by 1.1 billion."
Right.
The Welsh Finance Minister took one look at the Welsh settlement and went, "We've been short-changed by 4.1 billion."
It's about 1% has made difference. Actual fact, 1% difference, I believe. That's it.
Well, the thing is, as we know, the last 10 Scottish budget has been cut by 11%, so it doesn't even plug the fucking, it doesn't even replace the funding we've already chopped out of the Scottish Block Grant.
Yeah.
Absolutely shocking. But when we get a wee bit further doing this review, this report, we will be talking about events that happened today, which actually puts the whole thing out of kilter. It was always smoke and mirrors, never meant nothing. So we'll see what actually makes it up this road. We'll see what shovels hit the ground anywhere. Because with what came out this morning, it doesn't look as if the spending review is anywhere near on track to be met.
Yeah, that's right.
So 3 projects in Scotland have been, a fourth one in Scotland was also muted to be getting funding, and that was GB Energy, the Ponzi scheme to give money to private investment companies in the hope that they'll build wind turbines here off the shores of Scotland.
But wasn't that the whole idea of GB in the first place? GB Energy in the first place? Wasn't that their whole reason for being? We're going to get money to companies to do such and such, right?
Well, we know as it came out in the wash, GB Energy ended up being headquartered in Manchester. It was one employee, and that's the CEO.
Yeah.
And the funds that were originally allocated to 8.3 million to be lent out to try and encourage others. Certainly wouldn't be enough to encourage others, because it's not even going to cover the windfall tax, which is on green energy for some fucking mad reason. So basically, for Scotland, there is a supercomputer getting built. Allegedly.
No, what I heard was the money there to go to Curry's and buy a laptop. That's that.
Right, let's move on because there's a lot to get through today, David.
Is that anything to do with the supercomputer that was pinched and taken down to Oxford?
Yes, that's the one.
Right, so what, are they going to give us money for having pinched that? Or are they going to give us money to build one in the competition with it? What are they going to do? Why have we got some details here? Why don't the Labour company actually come out and tell us what they're actually going to do?
Right, build the supercomputer at Edinburgh University.
Are they?
Oh, apparently,
Yeah.
750 million quid.
When?
Like all the rest of it, David, it's pie in the sky, but we'll get there. We're moving on to Swinney and his fate hanging in the balance.
Oh, right, okay.
As we know, on Monday, it was being reported in the National that a group of senior SNP figures got together and talked about ousting Swinney and allegedly gave him a fortnight to come up with a route to independence. And
Who are the figures? Who are they?
Don't know. National.
Right. And that worries me. That worries me that we've got a story that's gone through the National where they've said a group of, and that tells you, bugger all. Correct. If I knew who was involved, I'd be phoning them and saying, right, can I join? Get rid of them, right? Seriously.
Well, anyway, this particular group of senior MSPs, and one of them, of that group, was in the National, David. Just can't mind off the top of my head who it was. He says, Swinney better offer Indy Ref 2 for the next election.
Who was, come on, you've got to tell me who this was.
I need to look it up.
You have to look it up.
I don't have to use that bloody computer.
I think you do. Come on, I should show what I should know of the relevant information. It's the sound of hammers hitting a keyboard.
That's for Monday's fucking papers and I end up with fucking Thursdays.
No, alright, okay. We'll get there. We'll get there, alright.
Well, what I'll do is I'll get my emails and I'll go back to Monday. That's where I go to. Oh, there we go. Front pages Monday. So let's have a look. We'll get you this of the English front pages. Aye, the National's no there.
Right. Forget it then. Get on with the next thing. Alright. Effectively, John Swinney, as far as I'm concerned, John Swinney is done.
Anyway, carry the story at the time while you're on.
The question that we as independence support, doesn't matter if they're SNP supporters, independent supporters, is we should be asking what method should we have to get rid of John Swinney? Does it take a conference? If it does take a conference, how can the people manage to run a conference whereby it is enough political push to get rid of John Swinney as First Minister, and then vote in somebody else as an interim until, say, somebody proper like Stephen Flynn comes up, whatever, and we get somebody, Dave Dugan maybe, right, comes up and takes over as First Minister.
Aye, he's not an MSP, and it's in our rules that it's going to be an MSP that's first. The leader of the party.
Or those rules are changed.
Need a conference.
That's
Right,
right.
and that's a good point to look into. Is this a union tactic to defeat the SNP, basically? DC John, same as they did Nicola, same as they did Humza. No, that's a possibility. But anyway, ministers on Wednesday, to continue with the timeline, said no, there was no plot to oust John. So obviously by Wednesday.
The thing is, so looking at somebody that is on the, like a minister for the SNP, right? They get quite a considerable amount of extra money for being a minister for the SNP, right? Of course they're going to say, oh, there's no, because it means if they do say there's a movement there to get rid of John Swinney, effectively they're going to knock themselves out of a job straight away. Simple as that. Either John Swinney will get them, or if John Swinney's removed, new ministers will be appointed by the incoming person that takes over John Swinney's job. So therefore, the ministers are going to say, it's low nonsense. John Swinney's quite solid.
Well, anyway, John Swinney, we'll get to that shortly. He subsequently said he's no intention to resign. And he then had a reshuffle of his cabinet. But we'll get to the reshuffle of his cabinet in a minute.
Yeah, but also you've got to take into account what John Swinney's good at is he's good at producing what's called word elastoplast. You are cut, you are bleeding. John Swinney would come along and go, leave that in the box. I'll just say, you are going to get better. You're going to get better. You're going to get better. And that's it done. And 3 years later, you die of loss of blood.
I know you find that word plaster thing quite entertaining, but
it really is. It really is. It's quite something.
No, it's not.
Yes,
all politicians are good at word salads. It's
no,
what they do. They actually construct word salads so you don't understand.
Word salad, word plaster. That's what John Swinney does. Word plaster. He says something and he's, it's all better now. And we lose another election. Don't worry about it. It's just, we've got work to do. Don't worry. And things like that. That does it all. And then he gets on with doing what he did in his usual times. We need rid of John Swinney, big style.
Well, it looks like we're not getting rid of him in the short term, David. That's the point. Ministers have said there's
we need to be asking the awkward questions, which says that each one of us, if we were to write an email through to various people within the SNP saying, how do we get rid of John Swinney? Never mind saying anything else, just those words. How do we get rid of John Swinney from being First Minister? That'll put the fucking fear of God up a lot of them.
Thanks, Nathan. You're right. It was James Doran. He was the MSP that was in the National on Monday saying Swinney's got a fortnight to come up with a plan or he's out.
Yeah, right.
Which could well be why a certain question was asked at Prime Ministers today, but we'll get there in a minute because we have got something else to talk about in the interim, and that is a bill being passed in the Scottish Parliament this week. It was the Social Care, slimmed down version of the Social Care Act. Social Care Reform Act 2024, because that's when the bill started its passage through the Parliament.
And the reason why it's cut down?
Because there won't be a national care service anymore.
Well, the reason it's cut down is because they're not finding well to try to do anything else. They'll just get Section 35 out of existence. Simple as that.
Well, we didn't even go to the trouble of Section 35 at this time because they're influencing the unions, they're influencing councils, and they're influencing the Parliament, meant that the Greens gave up support for the idea. The trade unions didn't want transferred from the local authorities to the National Care Service.
Yeah.
And the local authorities didn't want to give up the power of being the administrators of social care to central government.
Don't worry, guys. When you get independence, you know what my next campaign's got to be is getting rid of the councillors, the political power behind the local councils.
Well, we know that. Anyway, what's in the Social Care Act? Well, in the Social Care Act, there is beefed up powers for the watchdog to sanction bad care providers and even to take the contract of bad care providers where councils are concerned. There's also a mandatory order to councils to ensure there's respite for all non-paid carers. Paid carers, as we know, they go on holiday. They get holidays same as everybody else. Non-paid carers, meaning members of your family who are caring 24 hours a day or whatever. There's now a legal obligation that councils make respite available to them if they need it.
Yeah, all right. But respite's always been there. Respite's been there for the past few years.
Yeah, but
yeah.
It was pretty tight, David, on who could get it and who couldn't. This would be worse than that.
Yeah, a decision was made, but it meant that if somebody was looking after someone else in their own family, at some point you went, right, hang on a sec, they deserve 7 days respite. And I saw it inside my own family. 7 days respite, that means the person goes into care, going to pay accommodation care, and then that gives the person 7 days to go and go to pub the night time.
I know that to pay for somebody to go and stay in their home while the carer goes and gets rest.
Right.
But as I say, that's the two main aspects of it. See, we know why the National Care Service fell on its arse, because they did spend 30 million. They'd even bought some of the facilities at the councils. You know, and of course we know the councils, the unions, and the opposition parties. That was an end to it. So it was 30 million pissed up against the wall.
Yeah.
So basically, in the Social Care Act, there is nothing. The reform of Social Care Act, there's nothing. A wee bit more power to the regulator and some respite for unpaid carers, of which apparently there are 700,000 of them in Scotland. And according to what we're being told, by 2035, it will cost £310 million a year to provide that respite. So, chicken feed.
Yeah, okay. That's 310 million. If you imagine that was put into a National Care Service, some of that number at least would be used for that National Care Service.
Well, there wouldn't be so many unpaid carers, would there? But more importantly, there would be a care service for the people who go into while the unpaid carers get respite.
If there's unpaid carers involved, right, one can imagine that love has got a lot to do with it. You love your Auntie Jeannie or whatever, right, and you take care. But it doesn't make you a professional. Yeah. So at the end of the day, that National Care Service, there'd be a degree of professionalism involved, and they would have a degree of knowledge that would be imparted between different staff members, and that would help. So,
system.
That's right. That's right. Good thing, bad thing. Good thing, bad thing. I don't know. We're not even getting a chance to try it out.
No, we won't be getting a chance to try it out. But as I say, the Scotland Social Care Reform Act 2024 has now got nothing in it.
Yeah.
Whereas before, with the National Care Service being set up, it was a beefy tomb, because of everything that's involved in setting up a national service.
Isn't that the message? It's not the message that we're getting on everything these days. Labour, whatever they give you, it's nothing. SNP, they lose an election and then say, there's more to do. That's fucking nothing, right? as far as I'm concerned, I'm getting sick of this. I really am. I'm sorry if it sounds a bit blooming childish, but I'm telling you, I'm getting really, really sick of it.
Anyway, this Care Reform Bill 2024 passed with 116 votes. Nobody voted against it. It voted straight through, cross party.
Yeah.
So there you go. That was it. Okay, next up we had First Minister's questions today. David, I know you wouldn't have been watching it. You don't normally watch it, I don't believe.
Definitely not. It's a waste of time because all it is you've got the person that's seemingly in charge, right, being attacked by two people that all their job is to try and demoralise that person in front of the people of Scotland. Something like that. End of story. That's what First Minister's question is all about these days. Doesn't actually impart any real good information.
No, it's become like Westminster. It's just a puppet show.
Yeah.
Anyway, today the Tory leader Russell Finlay highlighted what he called Scotland's economic performance gap of 1.1 billion. And this is this imaginary 1.1 billion black hole on a budget that can never be anything but balanced. As for economic performance gap, guess what? We don't run the economy, it's reserved. End of that. That's the end of him. All John had to say was, what John actually said was he defended the government's taxation plans and insisted the SNP was business friendly. I'd have just said to him, fuck off with your reserved questions. Come back when you get something devolved to talk about.
That's right.
Now, Scottish Labour leader Anna Sarwar raised the issue of job losses at Alexander Dennis, the bus company in Falkirk, where it is rumoured that 400 jobs in the bus division are about to go. Throw them on top of the 440 jobs that went to Grangemouth, and you're looking at an economic collapse in the Falkirk Grangemouth area.
That's right. And what do you think caused initially the breakdown of that?
Well, right, Brexit probably, but let's get to the core of what Anna Sarwar was asking the SNP today. He was asking the SNP to step in and save these 400 jobs. When a brass neck, he promised to step in and save fucking Grangemouth and did nothing. Now he's demanding the Scottish government do what they can do, and that is step in.
Yeah, can imagine. Yeah.
No, so here we go, a lying Labour politician standing in our Parliament demanding that our government does something that they can't do. How did he go about saving a whole bus division in a private company? If Anna Sarwar couldn't save the private company that is Ineos for shutting Grangemouth, how is the SNP supposed to stop Alexander Dennis for laying off 400 people?
Exactly right. I agree.
I suppose they could nationalise the bus division.
We could.
And show Labour how it's fucking done. But what were you going to do with a whole bus division and nobody to sell buses to?
You don't know. That's a problem. It's you've got your problem of location. It's the wrong part of the world, right? It's right over the east coast. It wants to be more central. Right? It wants to be Livingston or get back towards Glasgow. Because don't forget, then you've got the opportunity. You could use it in Edinburgh. You can use it in Glasgow.
Well, as Alexander Dennis exports an awful lot of the vehicles, Falkirk makes perfect sense. It's right next to fucking docks.
Okay.
Now, the truck division apparently is doing all right. They do waste disposal vehicles and emergency vehicles.
If you imagine if it was nationalised, you could actually put into place a system of replacing buses for public use. So in other words, build buses for public use, maintain those buses for public use. Be easy to actually move upstream to be able to do that for a nationalised company.
But you could nationalise the bus division of Alexander Dennis.
Yeah.
Who you sell the buses to? And we can't produce them for our own use because the bus companies are all franchised.
Yes. Yeah, no, appreciate that. Yeah.
We don't have Glasgow Corporation to sell buses to anymore. We do have the Lothian Bus Company, but they've got a new
Isn't that an awful shame?
Just the way it goes, I'm afraid.
Just
But as I say,
bring it
Starwater,
through, get rid of all the councillors, bring back in Glasgow Corporation, but run from Holyrood. Well, what could we do? All sorts, yeah.
David, I don't even want you doing that fucking rabbit hole. I don't. So, we're not going to honest Starwater, but the most important question, as far as John Swinney's concerned in his future, was asked by Lorna Slater. Now, Lorna Slater of the Greens demanded that John asked the Prime Minister what conditions would make it possible for India F2 to happen.
We know that the answer is going to be none whatsoever. We know there's going to be no answer to that whatsoever, or else you're going to get a stock answer like now is not the time or whatever, right?
I will tell you.
But the fact that she's asked the question is good. It's actually, believe it or not, it's good politicking. If you can at least ask a question, you can make it awkward for somebody if you ask the right question. Yeah.
Well, definitely made it awkward for John because he didn't have an answer.
Right.
Because you and I both know, and this audience here both knows, it's not their gift to give. Right. It's ours to take. Yes. And as soon as that place along that road realises that, we can get fucking on with that. And that's why we had James Dorman demanding that John say India F2 is happening after this election if we have a majority, whether you like it or no.
Yes, Mr. Dornan is rather interesting. I like a politician with fire in his belly, and that's truthful fire in his belly.
Well, we've got Carol telling us that he remembers the Glasgow buses had the Celtic colours, green, white and gold was the colour of the Glasgow buses actually. Glasgow Corporation buses were green, white and gold, to be fair. That's exactly what they were. My father used to drive for them once upon a time, and back in the old days, my grandfather was the guy that painted them. And I meant his company painted them, no him personally. He the company that painted them out at Butterbiggins Road. Okay, so that more or less that covers First Minister's questions, and that'll take us on to the First Minister's mini shuffle. Now, it would appear that Mary McCallum is being appointed the new housing minister with his job of sorting out the housing problem and the heating situation in new houses being built. In other words, stopping gas boilers from being put in and making sure that it's heat pumps, apparently. Also, in this mini shuffle,
right? We know that heat pumps don't work in certain circumstances. That's what they're going to do with them.
Aye.
You can't do an across the board solution. It doesn't work in every situation. So she's got enough noodle to work that one out.
Well, she's been told to sort the heating situation out. I dare say there'll be specific schemes for that specific areas, whether it be solar panels or heat pumps or whatever. You know. Also leaving the government will be Paul McLennan. He was in the housing portfolio, and apparently he's asked to leave the government. Gillian Martin, who stood in for Mary when she was on leave, because Mary's brief was drugs and alcohol, she takes her the drugs and alcohol brief, but she'll which Mary McCallum was looking after because Christine McKelvey died. Anyway, also Marie Todd steps in. She'll be the new drugs minister.
Again, I've got to say, drugs, it's a reserved issue.
I was going to say that I would have bother appointing one. I just make it clear reserved issue, but no appointing one.
Why bother? And when somebody from Westminster says, why have you not appointed somebody in charge of drugs? Just say, well, you're Your fucking problem. You deal with it.
Now, anyway, Tom MacArthur has been appointed as the Social Care and Mental Wellbeing Minister, and he also carry on with the sports brief, I believe. Anyway, during the mini reshuffle, excluding law officers, which the number of law officers don't change, and the cabinet, the overall size of the government decreased from 27 ministers to 23 ministers. Okay, apparently, as I say, and the reason for the shuffle, according to John, lessons to learn for losing the by-election. So reducing the size of government is going to do with lessons to be learned for the by-election. Nope, super chat.
Back up and go home, eh? Don't worry about it. Yeah, we won't mention independence ever again. How's about that? John 20, fuck off. Sorry. Might be a nice guy, but I have no time. No time. We need a fighter.
Well, of course, one of the ministers that disappeared since John came to power, shrinking the government, was the Minister for Independence. Okay. Thanks, Alistair. Thanks very much. You're a generous man.
Waste of time. Thanks,
okay. So that's his reshuffle. Really, what he's done is shrunk the size of government, doubled up the briefs that some ministers have got, increasing their workload, and to dump housing on Mary McCallan, when she's just returned from a maternity leave. It's a big thing to dump. I wonder how long she'll last.
It sounds awfully to me like musical chairs.
It is.
Yeah.
Thank you very much, Barbara.
Barbara. Hey, seriously, I watch it every time. I really, 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 really enjoy that program. Anyway, like it.
No, as I say, so the mini reshuffle. What really happened in the mini reshuffle was he's got rid of a couple of ministers and he's doubled up the briefs. Thomas Arthur also left the government. I think he asked to leave. He only wants to stay in here and there. He's not ready to be a full-time minister. Okie dokie. Now, David,
that's the rest of intelligence that we can't get somebody through that's worth being a minister.
Well, recently Neil Grace came through.
Yeah, Neil Grace. But surely we've got the ability to get ministers in place that are brilliant and really, really know the stuff. I mean, I started watching the beginning of debate night last night. Didn't see all of it because it was after midnight when I started watching it. And Lassie for the SNP, I forget, she was minister in charge of housing, is the one that we're talking about. She was great. I mean, seriously, she was brilliant.
David, the thing is, there's 49 of them. Half of them are already in the government, or 59 of them, half of them are already in the government. You know, so really, obviously, nobody else wants a ministerial post at this point.
Sounds to me that nobody wants the first minister's post either.
No, there's a lot of truth in that at all. If John says he's not resigning, then there's nothing.
That's right. If somebody comes up and challenges him, going, I challenge you for that post, then that's serious. And it's like we wait until we maybe get another person on board to challenge him, right? And then it goes through as a fucking vote, and then that's it done. What's going on here? Why is the SNP not fucking dealing with this? I pay money to the SNP each month. That lass that sat behind me here, he pays money to the SNP every month. You pay money to the SNP every month, and they're not fucking doing the job. Why?
As far as I'm concerned, they're doing the job.
They're not doing the job, David.
Scotland's running away with it.
They're doing this, they're fucking doing it. They're doing a form filling operation. Simple as that, right? They're not doing what they're employed for.
Their job is to govern Scotland. Their ambition is for Scotland to be independent.
Ambition.
The political aim of a political party and the job of the party in government are two different things.
No, they aren't. No, they fucking aren't. No, they fucking aren't. No, they aren't. Seriously.
David, if things don't run, nobody's going to vote for that party.
Can I tell you? See, when it comes to enough time goes by that goes under the bridge, right? The party won't run anyway because the party won't be there. So let's get that in place straight away. People that are
You take it up with the party,
people
David.
no, I'm taking it up with the people here. People that support independence want that party to actually get together and give us independence through what they do. And it ain't happening. Not with John Swinney. Needs to change. Needs to change quickly. And I'm sure that I'm not speaking alone here.
David, you're right about one thing. It needs to change quickly, or electoral success isn't guaranteed, because the one thing it's given the SNP electoral success is this surge towards independence. But their actual daytime job is to run the country.
But there comes a point when this surge towards independence, because, again.
Hey, move on again. You're pulling things out too far again.
I really, really feel as if I need to, David. I'm sorry about that, and I really do apologise about that, right?
David, you've done it in every subject. We've only covered 5.
No, come on.
So let's try and keep this one a wee bit briefer, although it's a big subject.
Oh, fuck.
Thank you very much. You're a star.
Thanks, Duncan.
Now, Rachel Reeves' spending review out the window, day one, as Rachel Reeves herself appears on the BBC to apologise for economic contraction at the start of this quarter of this year. Since Labour came to power, the economy, they've shouted growth, 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 but the economy has shrunk by 0.6% of GDP. Mind, it had already shrunk 4% because of Brexit. They've managed to shrink it another 0.6%.
Right, so they've done that, right? And I'm sure there are umpteen advisors behind Rachel Reeves. Surely she doesn't have to use too much of her own noodle, right, to actually work out, is this going to create growth? Is it? Hell, excuse the French, right? Yeah. They know. They knew what was going to happen here. They knew it was going to cause the jobs market to go down the way, crash and burn.
That was great.
Yeah. We know fine well that growth was going to be either 0 or less than 0, right?
Well, if we go back to October last year, David, we know that she was advised that the change to national insurance would throw another 250,000 people on the unemployment list. Well, by the way, that's starting to come through because there's another 100,000 on the employment list. The economy shrank by 0.3% in the first part of this year. So she's had to apologise to the nation on the BBC this morning. But unemployment has also risen. It's up by 0.1% to 4.6% or 100,000 people. And so
I wonder whether that could be something to do with national insurance. I'm sure it could. It couldn't possibly.
Yes, aye. It is. Right. And of course, inflation since April has jumped 0.9%, almost a full percentage point.
I'll let David give you the juicy bit. Right? I'll give you the intro. This morning, David and I started to work out between us. If you took home £20,000 in a year, right? How much would inflation take a scoop out of you in a year? What has been 340 quid? David went, "Oi, I'm going to buy a new dishwasher. That's what that's going to cost me. I could have a new dishwasher. I've just taken the price of that dishwasher off me. Now, the inflation has gone up. David, what's the juicy bit?"
If you're on 20 grand a year, 700 quid of that disappears just because of inflation.
It's like having a really, really expensive bottle of whiskey sat up on your fireplace, and you think someday that's going to worth thousands, and you see a wee bit going, a wee bit. They call it the angel share. The angel. That's what we're going to start calling inflation. We're going to call that the angel share. You're going to lose 700 quid off of your £20,000 income. That's each year. That's not just next year. That's next year, and then it happens again the year after.
But the figure might be different between
you may
as we know, the Bank of England held interest rates this month, even though inflation crept up. We know there's more inflationary pressures coming because of Rachel's alleged splurge in spending, because that creates inflation in itself. And Trump's the tariffs are going to be causing inflationary pressures. So, really, Rachel Reeves this morning was basically on the BBC to tell everybody that yesterday's spending review was a lot of nonsense. Because the tax take is shrinking rapidly. The economy's contracted by 0.6% since the Labour came to power. And the amount of tax they're taking is dropping rapidly because the amount of people in the unemployment list is growing. And, of course, that also means a drain on state funds because these people are now relying on state benefits. So, Rachel Reeves managed to tell her bollocks for 24 hours and it's all out the window because the numbers don't stack up anymore because the economy's contracted and the amount of people paying taxes.
Right, so Reeves goes on TV to apologise for something that's happening.
Yep.
And she knew it was going to happen, right?
Yes.
Right? But she still had to put through that policy regardless, right?
Yep.
So is it possible seeing Rachel Reeves lined up for getting rid of? We're looking at a bit of a reshuffle, possibly. New tea lady coming on board? No, not possible.
Listen, if you're wondering why I might be a wee bit out of focus, it's because the bandwidth. I don't have full fibre.
In actual fact, when you see David in real life, he's out of focus anyway, so it doesn't matter.
Well, when I see you in real life, I'm out of focus. I've got to take my fucking drugs before I can come on with you.
I just need to stand up quickly.
I've got to nip down the docks and get some meds. Right, also this morning, Rachel Reeves did not rule out tax rises. Well, of course, there's going to be tax rises. The economy's shrinking, the amount of tax she's taking is shrinking. The only way to counter that is to increase the amount of tax you take.
That's right.
Wow.
But are they going to take taxes off the rich people?
No.
Oh, I thought that's what was left. I thought they'd taken all the taxes off the poor people that was good. They're not going to take any more tax off the big rich people, no?
As far as I'm aware, we wait until August to find out, or October to find out when the budget is.
Why wait until October? See when an emergency occurs, right? Let's say the whole of London went on fire. London's burning, right? It's like they go, oh, we need more fire engines, right? They'd find more fire engines. They'd buy more. They'd buy some more France. They'd buy whatever, right? And it's like that's where it would happen. The emergency is happening now on the growth of the country. You're saying that equals more taxes. The time the more taxes should take place, and from the right people, being the rich people, should be now, not August, now.
Well, anyway, the speculations of the income tax. All right, let's move on. War with Iran looks like it's on the cards, David.
Oh yeah, the IEA, yeah. This morning I decided to watch Al Jazeera, and the put very quickly something we'll bounce upon. We'll actually tell you about later on, which is the Indian aircraft thing, but the Indian crash. But the IAEA story regarding Iran was running tail to tail on Al Jazeera, and it's like, yeah, everybody had a dog in the race. Trump was in it. Trump was saying, oh yeah, it's like they're in for big trouble if they don't conform.
Now let's get to the meat and bones of this. The Global Nuclear Watchdog Board of Governors has formally declared Iran in breach of its non-proliferation obligations for the first time.
First off, the question is going to be, who are the main progenitors of that complaint? Main progenitors are UK, US, Germany, and France, right? Not part of BRICS by any chance. No, definitely not, right? So then the other side of the coin is going to be BRICS, and I think this is your first salvo across the bow of BRICS countries. I think they're going after Iran because it's very, very strong, And what they're doing is that they're accusing Iran of having nuclear materials, let's say, in other parts, unspecified parts of Iran. So, in other words, it looks as if it's another factory taking place where they're using uranium for maybe building nuclear weapons, for example.
Anyway, 1935 countries on the board of the International Atomic Energy Agency voted
No.
motion,
That's
which
basically what you've got is you people that bring the vote. Germany, US, UK, and France, right? Okay, and the 135 countries that are in the IEA, they then
there's only 35 countries in the
35
IEA.
countries in the IEA, they vote on it to see whether it's something to push, right? At the end of the day, a lot of those countries will be driven by America. Money.
Anyway, let's get to the point here. 19 of the 35 countries on the board of the International Atomic Energy Agency voted for the motion, which was submitted by the US, UK, France, and Germany. It says Iran's many failures to provide the IAEA with full answers about the undeclared nuclear materials and activities constitutes non-compliance. As you say, David, these places are supposed to be non-specific. They don't tell us where they are. Apparently, Iran's no telling them where they are. Iran's telling them they've made it up.
And another thing about it is Iran are saying we don't need to answer this. We're not required to answer this. We're a country in our own right. We have our own rules. We're not bound by the IEA, which is an American outfit anyway.
It's a United Nations outfit.
We started by. Right, okay. I'm not going to get into an argument now regarding what influence America had in various things, right? But it started off, the IEA was started off by America. End of.
Well, as I say, it's a branch of the United Nations. It follows a report from the IEA last week, which criticised Iran's general lack of cooperation and said it had enough uranium enriched to 60% purity. And that's near weapons grade. Near, but not quite.
So at some point, if Iran come up and go, Israel's got bombs, nuclear bombs. What do you say about that? And Israel's going to go, no, we don't. We don't have any nuclear weapons at all.
Anyway,
it's a nuclear non-proliferation treaty.
Apparently, Iran have overproduced enriched uranium at 60% to the tune of enough to make 9 nuclear weapons. 9.
Fine. At the end of the day, it's like they are a country in their own right. They're entitled to. The best thing is jaw, not war. All right. End of story.
Well, anyway, under the agreement that because Iran is a member of the IAEA. And it's treaties with the IAEA, and apparently it's no complying with them. Iran denies that they're non-compliant. They also deny that they've got enough uranium to build nuclear weapons. But as you say, David, if their neighbours are entitled to have them, then for protection reasons, they should all fucking have them. That way they're no good to anybody.
That's right.
Anyway, US President
Scotland ends up with independence, right? If they don't come and get them stupid boats for fast lane, we're hanging on to them, and that means Scotland's got the nuclear. I'm going to make you a captain of a nuclear submarine, David. How's with that?
No, thanks. No, I wanted to be a sailor, I'd have joined the army.
Instead, you ended up when somebody was going, you cut the blue one.
Anyway, why, David? Don't go down the rabbit hole. We've got work to go on with here. Now, why was it important that this vote was taken and went through for the UK, US, Germany, and France? Why was it important? Because it now gets forwarded to the UN security placed on Iran. And the reason why we started this by saying war coming with Iran, because that's where it's headed when it heads for the Security Council.
Yeah.
And who is it that wants a war with Iran? Netanyahu.
Trump as well.
No.
Because Trump, hang on a second, let's get this right. Trump, on his first outing as POTUS, killed an Iranian general with a missile, if you remember correctly. That was one of the first few weeks of him being the President of the United States back in his first term, right? So Trump always in the background of this. Netanyahu,
you're aware of this. In the US Senate and in the House at the moment, they're actually turning on Israel and turning on Netanyahu and saying, no, we're not getting involved in another war for you. Because America went into all the wars in the Middle East because Netanyahu said, no, when they went into Iraq, it was because Netanyahu said, get rid of Saddam and we'll stability in the region.
Yeah.
Stability in the region deteriorated.
Yes.
Netanyahu says, bring down Bashar al-Assad and we'll get stability in the region. America went in. So actually, the American Senate and the American House are starting to push back against the notion of another Netanyahu war in the Middle East. So actually, it's not really the Americans that are pushing for this, it's Netanyahu who's pushing for it. Will America comply? More than likely.
Again, your Senate and your Capitol Hill and all the rest of it, they don't have the power they once had because Trump's doing it through executive order.
Well,
and as we'll see later on, Trump's up to other things as well, which we'll discuss later on. Carry on, David.
Well, as I say, David, Netanyahu wants a war with Iran, and it looks like we'll be about to get it.
Yeah, they've discussed 3 plants where they're doing enrichment just across the border in Iran, right? But you look at Iran, Iran's a very mountainous country. Seriously, it really, really is, right? You look at the topology of it, and if Israel wants to get into a war with Iran, they're in for a very difficult time. You remember America and Vietnam? It's like having America against Vietnam, where the Vietnamese are really, really well tooled up, well trained warriors, and also you've got a situation where the Israel is going to march in and try and take on in a highly mountainous area.
Israel's not going anywhere. They want the Yanks to do it.
I know that.
Right then, so we can move on then.
But they'll end up with their own guys, lobbing missiles and all the rest of it, trying to get to the Iranians. Simple as that.
Anyway, Air India flight this morning crashes.
I know.
In an apartment building. 204 dead, 41 survivors apparently. So 3 of them must have been residents of the block.
Yeah.
So out of the 242 passengers, 41 will survive, but there's 204 dead.
Yeah.
So 3 of them must be people who live in the block the plane went into.
Yeah, it's very sad. Things like this, all we can do is report. We don't have any other information to give you apart from that, the bare bones.
Well, it was flight AI 171 from Ahmedabad Airport in India, and the flight was going to London Gatwick Airport. Yeah. Now, apparently there was 50 odd UK nationals on board. That started out as 40 odd, but the number's up now to 57 UK nationals on board.
The information that's coming out from various broadcasters is the fact that when you look at the plane, which would have been taken off to go to the UK, it didn't have any flaps. So if you'd looked at the airplane, the flaps are the drilling edge that increases the size of the wing and makes it lift up easier, right? And it didn't have any flaps. And if you imagine that if a plane doesn't have flaps on, whenever it's landing or taking off, it doesn't have the ability to deal with the slow speeds and take off.
Anyway, let's have a look at this thing crashing into the building. What we in the way?
Warning, guys, it really is. Don't know anything more than that.
What I
Possibly
can say is,
in a few days.
this is what's left of the. This is what's left of the aircraft in the apartment building it ran into. Wow.
Yeah.
And we can see the escape hatch here is open, so people did get out.
Yeah. No, it could have been the escape hatch bounced open.
It could have been, aye. There's no much left of that thing anyway, is there?
What, darling?
A British passenger on seat 11E survived the plane crash.
Fine, thank you. Thanks for that.
As I say, the information's coming in as we speak, folks. But First Minister John Swinney's in touch with the the Foreign and Commonwealth Office to see if any of the people on board were from Scotland.
Yeah. Now, can we very quickly get on to? Can we change the subject on that for a bit? And go onto Trump and regarding the politicization of his military-industrial complex.
Yeah, if you want.
Effectively, with the situation whereby Trump made a speech at Fort Bragg in North Carolina, and he was effectively speaking to the troops, but it was a very, very political speech he gave them, and he was getting rousing cheers off him and all the rest of it, and boos when he mentioned Biden and all the rest of it, right? And this is a situation that would have been frowned upon by all the big generals and all the rest of it, but effectively that's what happened.
Well, he sacked all the top brass and he got rid of all the undesirables out of the military. So what you're left with is a bunch of testosterone jacked up bottoms.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
So Trump politicising the military is a big worry.
Yeah.
If they are going to take his side, then he's unstoppable.
Trump made other comments about Newsom. Newsom is the governor of California.
That's right, Gavin.
And about Karen Bass, mayor of Los Angeles, California, right, where protests against the administration's crackdown on immigrants have been taking place, and where Trump has ordered thousands of National Guard members and active duty Marines deployed in response. Other Trump comments about fake news media, transgender people, protesters in California, and flag burning also drew boos from uniformed military members in attendance. Trump is known for his rallies, which he goes after and pokes fun at political enemies and other issues, but typically he makes those remarks at political events, not on US military bases. The fact that it was at Fort Bragg in Northern Carolina is highly surprising, really, really surprising. And no other president of the United States has gone through politicization of the military-industrial complex in that way before.
Right, do we know what he's up to?
Well, effectively, what he wants to do is he wants to take on the might, if you like, of California. So he's going to take that. No, he's going to take on California and burn it down, something like that. Go on then, give me. What's your idea?
This weekend, he's going to incite more riots and more protests. He'll be Proud Boys mingle amongst them, and then he's going to bring a national emergency, which will give him the ability to introduce martial law, which will also mean that he won't face, if he can maintain it, he won't have to face a mid-term next year, which will see him lose the House and the Senate. And
I didn't mention the midterm. But everything up to that point, I already said that.
More or less, aye. But that's his aim. His aim is to stop the midterms happening.
Yes, no. In actual fact, he doesn't ever want any more elections. He's done with elections. Trump has had it. It's like, yeah, he wants to have the whole thing put aside, so he becomes leader of the America. End of, until he dies. Well, David, you've gone again. Where are you? Very fuzzy, very unfocused.
Yeah, we're going to end it here, David, because
Yeah.
I'm starting to lose my signal. Okay. And it is 5 o'clock.
Yes.
So thanks everyone for sticking with us in large numbers. 156 of you watching at the peak there.
Yep.
A wee bit lower than usual, but the weather is nice. Well, it's still good numbers. Thanks very much for your super chats. Moderators, thanks for moderating.
Yep.
David,
Bye-bye.
see you on Monday afternoon. Do it all again, or is it next
Yes.
week you're away on holiday?
Be next Thursday that I'm away, right? Monday I'll be able to take part,
Right.
don't worry,
Monday
right?
show.
Wednesday morning, 10 o'clock, it's iffy. I'll need to let you know on that one. Depends on what the actions are that got to be carried out. And I've got a pile that I haven't to get through, you wouldn't believe. So, anyway, there you go.
Hi, Stephen, I don't believe in blocking on the channel. I don't. If somebody's out of hand, stick them in the naughty step for 5 minutes.
Aye.
Let them calm down.
Yeah.
But we don't want to block anybody for the channel.
People can react. Effectively, you see David and I rant every now and then. People do that. That's natural. That's human.
Aye.
Yeah. So.
That is. So, no, Stephen, you're right. I'm glad you pointed that out, Stephen, to give us a chance to talk about that. We're very much against blocking people, whether they be unionists or no.
Yeah.
But, I mean, the amount of trolls we get is very few, to be fair, for a channel that's running with this many live viewers.
Yeah.
I mean, it's a huge amount of... The live audiences for this programme are brilliant. I've seen channels 4, 5 times our size, 10 times our size, don't clock up the amount of live views that we get,
Yeah.
David.
I'm humbled by that, and I'm very humbled by donations that we get. Right, I'm humbled by the whole experience. Really am.
Yep.
You know,
Talk about donations. I'm nipping out on Monday with my camera to give some more money away, so we'll have a wee video up for you. Sorry, Tuesday it'll be, because I'm busy. We'll get the morning programme, the afternoon programme. Tuesday. I already have the organisation in mind. I've spoken to them. Just need to arrange,
still jump down the odd rabbit hole. Are we all right there?
Fine, aye, now we're off. You lot look after yourself. You lot look after yourself. I'll see you tomorrow morning. Keep your eyes on the prize. On you go, Mr. Milligan, of today,
time for independence. And keep your eyes on the prize. Right?
That's it. Look after yourself. See you. Look after yourself. See you tomorrow morning, 10:30. Don't be late, or you'll be on the fucking noise.
Bye, David.
Bye.